A billionaire's empire built on lies, exposed by a fake love story, hidden wealth, and secrets too dark to stay buried. Behind the luxury lifestyle of a billionaire lies a scandal of fake romance, offshore money, and a shocking fall from grace. She was never in love, just part of his billion-dollar illusion, until the truth unraveled their empire for the world to see. The perfect couple, the luxury life, the untouchable empire, until one scandal revealed it was all a carefully staged lie. The world of billionaires often feels like a fortress of glass towers, champagne celebrations, and private jets slicing through the skies like arrows. On the outside, everything gleams. Money, power, and influence captured in high-definition photographs across glossy magazines. But beneath that polished exterior, secrets lurk like shadows. Secrets that, when exposed, can unravel empires built over decades. This story begins in Manhattan, where Alexander Mercer, a billionaire known for his groundbreaking tech empire, stood at the height of his power, unaware that his entire kingdom was about to crumble under the weight of betrayal, lies, and a love story that was never real. Alexander was the type of man who turned heads without even trying. Tall, charismatic, and always dressed in perfectly tailored suits that looked hand-stitched to his frame, he was the poster child for ambition realized. He had been raised in a modest middle-class home in Ohio, the son of a factory worker and a schoolteacher. By the time he was 30, he had founded Mercer Innovations, a software company that disrupted the industry with its advanced AI security systems. By the time he was 40, he was a billionaire, the owner of penthouses in New York and Los Angeles, a sprawling estate in Connecticut, and a private island in the Caribbean. Every magazine called him the golden boy of Silicon Alley. But as every fairy tale teaches us, golden boys often carry secrets that tarnish under scrutiny. The media adored Alexander, but behind closed doors, his personal life was a carefully managed facade. At the center of it all was Claire Donovan, the woman the world believed was his fiancée. Claire was stunning, long auburn hair, green eyes that sparkled like emeralds under flashbulbs, and a figure that commanded attention at every gala. Every magazine called him the golden boy of Silicon Alley. But as every fairy tale teaches us, golden boys often carry secrets that tarnish under scrutiny. The media adored Alexander, but behind closed doors, his personal life was a carefully managed facade. At the center of it all was Claire Donovan, the woman the world believed was his fiancée. Claire was stunning, long auburn hair, green eyes that sparkled like emeralds under flashbulbs, and a figure that commanded attention at every gala. To the press, she was Alexander's rock, his confidant, the woman who had captured the heart of America's most eligible billionaire. But the truth was more complicated. Their relationship wasn't built on love. It was a contract, a business arrangement designed to preserve Alexander's pristine image. Claire had been an actress, struggling to find her footing in Hollywood before her path crossed with Alexander's. What began as a temporary deal to ward off rumors about his playboy lifestyle soon became a long-term charade that neither of them expected to last. But when money and power are involved, even the most carefully orchestrated lies can spin out of control. The story began unraveling on a crisp autumn morning when investigative journalist Olivia Bennett received an anonymous email. Olivia was no stranger to controversy. She had built her career exposing corruption, from Wall Street scams to political kickback schemes. The email's subject line was simple: Mercer's House of Cards. Inside was a brief but chilling message. If you want the truth about Alexander Mercer, look into Claire Donovan. The relationship is fake, the money is dirty, and the company is not what it seems. Start with the offshore accounts. Attached were several encrypted documents and a grainy photograph of Alexander and Claire at what appeared to be a staged dinner, with their body language stiff and unnatural. Olivia's instincts told her she had stumbled onto something massive. She had no idea how deep the rabbit hole would go. Meanwhile, Alexander was preparing for the most important business deal of his career. Mercer Innovations was on the verge of merging with a global conglomerate, Silvergate Holdings, in a deal worth nearly $50 billion. It would cement his legacy, making him one of the most powerful men in the world. For weeks, he had been juggling board meetings, investor calls, and high-profile charity events where Claire's presence was required to maintain appearances. At one such gala, hosted at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Alexander and Claire walked the red carpet, hand in hand. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and the world saw a picture-perfect couple. But behind the smiles, Claire's eyes betrayed something else: weariness, perhaps even regret. She had played her role flawlessly for years, but the weight of living a double life was beginning to take its toll. Later that night, as the couple returned to Alexander's penthouse overlooking Central Park, Claire confronted him. "How much longer are we going to keep this up?" she asked, her voice tinged with exhaustion. Alexander poured himself a drink, swirling the amber liquid in his glass before answering. "Until the merger is finalized. After that, we'll reevaluate." Claire sighed. She had heard those words before. Each time, the goalposts shifted, and each time, she found herself deeper in a web she could no longer escape. What she didn't know was that Olivia Bennet had already started digging into her past, tracing her financial records and uncovering payments that linked her directly to Mercer Innovations. Olivia's investigation revealed that Claire received monthly consulting fees from a shell company tied to Alexander's empire. To the untrained eye, it looked legitimate, but Olivia knew better. She also discovered offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands holding millions of dollars that couldn't be explained by company earnings alone. The more she dug, the clearer the picture became. Alexander Mercer's public image was a carefully constructed illusion propped up by a fake relationship and questionable financial dealings. But Olivia needed proof, something concrete that would stand up to scrutiny. She decided to get closer to Claire, knowing that the actress-turned-fiancé might be the weakest link in Alexander's fortress. To achieve this, Olivia orchestrated a chance meeting with Claire at a high-end boutique in Soho. Pretending to be a casual shopper, she struck up a conversation, complimenting Claire's style and casually mentioning her admiration for women who balanced public attention with private struggles. Claire, flattered and unsuspecting, opened up more than she realized. She hinted at the pressures of maintaining a perfect image, the loneliness of being in the spotlight, and the sacrifices she had made for Alexander. Olivia listened carefully, her reporter's instincts kicking in as she subtly steered the conversation. She left the boutique that day with a nagging certainty. Claire was cracking, and if pushed in the right way, she might reveal everything. But while Olivia was making progress, Alexander was tightening his grip on the narrative. He knew whispers had begun circulating about his company's financial practices, and he instructed his legal team to prepare for potential leaks. At the same time, he leaned on Claire, reminding her of the luxurious life she enjoyed thanks to their arrangement. The penthouse, the designer clothes, the endless stream of invitations to exclusive events. All of this disappears if you don't play your part, he warned her one evening,
his tone colder than usual. Claire nodded, but deep down, she wondered if the price of this glamorous cage was worth it. What Alexander didn't anticipate was that his enemies weren't just outside his empire, they were within. A senior executive at Mercer Innovations, Brian Callahan, had grown increasingly frustrated with Alexander's leadership. Brian had once been Alexander's right-hand man, but years of being sidelined and overlooked had turned loyalty into resentment. When Olivia's inquiries began to reach the company, Brian saw an opportunity. Quietly, he leaked internal documents to her, showing evidence of inflated earnings reports, manipulated stock valuations, and suspicious transfers to offshore accounts. It was the smoking gun Olivia needed. But exposing Alexander Mercer wouldn't be easy. He had powerful allies, deep pockets, and a loyal fan base that saw him as untouchable. As Olivia pieced together the scandal, she also discovered something even more shocking. Alexander's relationship with Claire wasn't just fake, it was a smokescreen for a darker truth. Hidden within the offshore accounts were not just payments to Claire, but also transfers linked to luxury real estate purchases under anonymous LLCs. Properties in Miami, Paris, and Dubai all tied to shell companies that traced back to Mercer Innovations.
The pattern suggested more than just tax evasion. It hinted at money laundering, possibly tied to foreign investors with murky backgrounds. The billionaire who had built his reputation on innovation and integrity was now at the center of a global financial web that could topple more than just his own empire. Olivia faced a choice: publish what she had and risk going to war with one of the most powerful men in America, or dig deeper to uncover the full scope of the scandal. She chose the latter, knowing that a half-exposed truth would only be buried under Alexander's influence. But as she pushed forward, danger began to creep into her life. Strange cars parked outside her apartment, anonymous calls in the middle of the night, and a break-in that left her files untouched, but her nerves rattled. Alexander Mercer, it seemed, had realized someone was getting too close, and he was willing to do whatever it took to protect his empire. The deeper Olivia went, the more entangled Claire became. One night, after another charity event where she played the role of doting fiancé, Claire slipped away to meet Olivia in secret. Sitting in the corner of a quiet cafe in Brooklyn, she finally admitted the truth. "It was never real," Claire whispered, her hands trembling as she wrapped them around a coffee cup. "The engagement, the love story, it's all a performance. He needed me to make him look stable, trustworthy, relatable. I agreed because I thought it would be temporary. But it never ended, and now I don't know how to get out." Olivia leaned forward, her heart pounding. "Then help me," she urged. "If you tell me everything, we can expose him together." Claire hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. "You don't understand. If he finds out I betrayed him, I'm finished. He controls everything." What neither of them knew was that someone was listening. Someone who would make sure their conversation would never stay private. The walls of Alexander Mercer's empire began to whisper before they crumbled. Whispers in boardrooms, hushed voices in exclusive clubs, murmurs in the corridors of power. Everyone felt something was coming, though few could imagine the scale of destruction about to unfold. For Alexander, the billionaire who once believed he was untouchable, the first crack appeared when Claire Donovan began to falter under the crushing weight of secrecy. Her private meeting with Olivia Bennett wasn't just a step toward confession. It was a quiet rebellion against the gilded prison she had inhabited for years. But in Alexander's world, even whispers of betrayal could summon storms.
The morning after her meeting with Olivia, Claire awoke in the penthouse with her heart pounding. The skyline glittered outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, but the view no longer dazzled her. Luxury had lost its sheen. On the marble counter in the kitchen sat a bouquet of roses from Alexander, accompanied by a card written in his bold handwriting. "For last night, you were flawless." Claire shivered. She hadn't been flawless. She had been desperate. And if Alexander suspected even a flicker of dishonesty, everything she knew, the comfort, the security, even her safety, would be in jeopardy. Meanwhile, Olivia pieced together threads of evidence with the precision of a surgeon. Her apartment had become a war room. Documents scattered across the floor, offshore account printouts pinned to the wall, photographs of Alexander and Claire connected by red string like some true crime investigator's obsession. The leak from Brian Callahan, the disillusioned executive, had blown the investigation wide open. Inflated revenues, hidden accounts, real estate ties to shadow investors. It was enough to ruin Alexander Mercer in the court of public opinion. But Olivia wasn't chasing headlines alone. She wanted ironclad proof strong enough to withstand Alexander's lawyers, lobbyists, and the army of defenders who would protect his image at any cost. She needed Claire. The next meeting between Olivia and Claire was riskier. This time, they met in a discreet hotel bar in Tribeca, blending into the crowd of travelers and executives. Claire arrived in oversized sunglasses, her auburn hair tucked beneath a scarf. Olivia ordered them coffee and leaned in. "You said last time you didn't know how to get out," Olivia began softly, "but maybe the way out is through. If you tell the truth, you're free." Claire hesitated, glancing around the room before whispering, "He keeps files, records. Everything is cataloged on a private server at the company. If you could get access to that, you'd have what you need. But Olivia, if he realizes you're onto him, he'll destroy you." Olivia nodded, her pulse quickening. "Then we'll make sure he never gets the chance." While Olivia prepared her strategy, Alexander pursued the merger with Silvergate Holdings with ferocious focus. On paper, everything looked perfect. Profits soaring, market share expanding, his charismatic presence charming investors at every step. But behind the facade, Alexander knew his empire was trembling. Rumors about leaks reached him through private channels. Anonymous journalists circling. A sense of being hunted gnawed at his composure. One evening, he confronted Claire as they dressed for another gala. "You've been distracted," he said, his eyes narrowing as he adjusted his cufflinks. "If there's something I should know, now is the time." Claire forced a smile, studying her trembling hands. "Just tired," she replied. Alexander studied her for a long moment before nodding. "Remember, appearances are everything. Without them, we're nothing." She swallowed hard. The performance continued. Behind the scenes, Brian Callahan intensified his betrayal. Years of loyalty had soured into rage. He had been promised partnership, only to be sidelined by Alexander's arrogance. Now, with Olivia's encouragement, he slipped her access credentials to Mercer Innovations' secure server. What they uncovered was staggering. Hidden folders labeled with innocuous names, projects, consulting, travel, each holding files that detailed a shadow network of shell companies, falsified invoices, and offshore laundering schemes that stretched across continents. There were records of payments to political figures, secret donations to influence legislation, and even evidence of competitors being sabotaged through covert data leaks. Alexander Mercer's empire wasn't just corrupt, it was built on rot from the foundation up. The day Olivia published her first exposé, the world shook.
Headlines blared across every major news outlet. Mercer Empire under fire, offshore secrets and fake romance exposed. Photographs of Alexander and Claire smiling at red carpet events were juxtaposed with financial charts and leaked documents. The revelation that Claire's relationship with Alexander was a business arrangement stunned the public. Overnight, the billionaire golden boy became the symbol of deception and greed. Alexander, furious, summoned his legal team and issued statements of denial. Baseless lies, he declared at a press conference, a smear campaign orchestrated by jealous competitors and opportunistic journalists. But the cracks had widened, and no amount of charm could plaster over the truth spilling out. Claire, caught in the media storm, became both a villain and a victim. Paparazzi hounded her outside her apartment, shouting questions about her fake love story. She remained silent, but inside, she felt relief mingled with fear. The lie was finally exposed, yet the consequences were only beginning. Olivia, meanwhile, was hailed as fearless, but accolades brought danger. Anonymous threats filled her inbox, strangers followed her in the street, and one night, her apartment door bore deep scratches as though someone had tried to break in. Still, she pressed forward, determined to finish what she had started. "If I stop now," she told Brian during a tense late-night meeting, "he wins, and men like Alexander Mercer have won for too long." The final blow came not from Olivia's articles, but from the people Alexander had underestimated, his own investors. Silvergate Holdings, alarmed by the growing scandal, abruptly withdrew from the merger. Mercer Innovations stock plummeted, wiping billions from its valuation in a single day. Board members who once adored Alexander now turned on him, demanding explanations he could no longer provide. The empire that had seemed unshakable teetered on collapse. In desperation, Alexander retreated to his Connecticut estate, where he paced the halls at night, ranting about betrayal. His once loyal staff began resigning in waves. Alone with his thoughts, he realized the truth he had avoided. His empire wasn't being stolen from him, it was being revealed for what it always was. Claire, finally free from Alexander's grip, granted Olivia a full interview. In a quiet studio, with cameras rolling, she spoke openly for the first time. "It wasn't love, it was survival," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I was promised a life of security in exchange for playing a role. But over time, the role consumed me. I became part of the illusion. I regret the years I lost, but I refuse to lose my voice any longer." The interview went viral, cementing the scandal as one of the greatest falls from grace in modern corporate history. Viewers didn't just see Claire as complicit, they saw her as another casualty of Alexander Mercer's insatiable hunger for control. The legal consequences followed swiftly. Federal investigators raided Mercer Innovations' headquarters, seizing servers and documents that mirrored Olivia's findings. Arrest warrants were issued for several executives, and Alexander himself was summoned for questioning. Though he retained the finest lawyers money could buy, the tide had turned. The same media that once crowned him a visionary now dissected every aspect of his downfall. Former allies abandoned him, distancing themselves to protect their own reputations. The billionaire who once commanded rooms with a single glance now found himself cornered, his empire in ruins, his name forever tarnished. In the aftermath, Olivia's career soared. Her courage was celebrated, and her work became a textbook case for investigative journalism. Yet she carried the scars of the battle, the paranoia, the sleepless nights, the lingering fear of shadows outside her window.
Claire, too, embarked on a new chapter. Free from Alexander's control, she returned to acting, though this time with authenticity. She chose independent films that told stories of truth and resilience, using her platform to speak against manipulation in relationships and business. Her honesty won audiences in a way her staged romance never had. And Brian Callahan, though complicit in the empire's early deceptions, found redemption in exposing the truth. He left the corporate world altogether, retreating to a quiet life far from boardrooms and scandals. As for Alexander Mercer, his fate became a cautionary tale. Stripped of his empire, his wealth frozen in legal bottles, he lived in the shadows of his former self. Occasionally, tabloids published blurry photographs of him in airports or small towns, always alone, always diminished. The man who once epitomized power and luxury now symbolized the fragility of empires built on lies. His name became shorthand for downfall, a reminder that no amount of money or charm can shield the truth forever. The story of Alexander Mercer, Claire Donovan, and Olivia Bennet rippled far beyond Wall Street or Silicon Alley. It became a modern parable about greed, deception, and the cost of illusions. People whispered about it in cafes, debated it in classrooms, and dissected it on podcasts. And in every retelling, one message remained clear. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply it's buried beneath luxury, lies, or billion-dollar empires. And that concludes the shocking, true-to-life, inspired tale of Alexander Mercer's rise and fall, the fake relationship that fooled the world, and the scandal that exposed the secrets of a billionaire lifestyle built on illusions. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more gripping stories like this one, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more unforgettable stories straight to you.